Good morning, and welcome to World in 15, your trusted source for comprehensive coverage of today's most pressing events, delivered with accuracy, integrity, and insight.
Donald Trump's criminal conviction marks an unprecedented moment in U.S. history. He stands as the first former or sitting president to be found guilty of a crime and the first major party nominee with a felony conviction, as Trump plans to appeal his conviction in the hush money case and awaits his sentencing on July 11, which could potentially include prison time and a substantial fine. The political ramifications are already under scrutiny. We have Shelby reporting on this.
Analyzing the political impact is challenging given the lack of historical precedents. Jeffrey Engel, director of the Center for Presidential History at Southern Methodist University, notes the absence of comparable events in history to predict the outcome of this situation. Trump, who clinched the Republican presidential nomination earlier this year, is set to be officially nominated at the party's convention shortly after his sentencing. Polls show a tight race between Trump and President Joe Biden, with Trump holding a slight lead in crucial swing states. However, these surveys also suggest that his conviction could alter the political landscape. Exit polls from the Republican primaries indicated that a significant portion of voters would not support Trump if he were convicted of a felony. An April survey by Ipsos and ABC News revealed that 16% of Trump supporters might reconsider their support in such circumstances. With the conviction now a reality, voters can make informed decisions. Trump, addressing the media after the court proceedings, emphasized that the ultimate verdict will be delivered by the electorate on November 5. Doug Schoen, a pollster with experience working for Democratic President Bill Clinton and independent New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg, suggests that by November, voters may prioritize issues like inflation, border security, international competition, and foreign aid over the 8-year-old hush money case. Even a marginal decline in Trump's support could be significant in a tightly contested election. If a small number of voters in key states such as Wisconsin or Pennsylvania choose not to support him, it could sway the election outcome. Ariel Hill Davis, co-founder of Republican Women for Progress, believes the conviction will harm Trump's candidacy, particularly among younger, college-educated suburban voters who are already wary of his leadership style. Despite these concerns, leading Republicans have rallied around Trump. House Speaker Mike Johnson described the conviction as a political maneuver rather than a legal one, condemning it as a shameful episode in American history. For years, experts and critics have predicted Trump's political downfall, only to be proven wrong repeatedly. His 2016 campaign survived numerous scandals that would have derailed most politicians, including the infamous Access Hollywood tape, which was mentioned multiple times during this trial. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
The guilty verdict against Donald Trump handed down by a New York jury may have shocked the public, but for those closely following the case, it wasn't a surprise. With the prosecution bearing the burden of proof, the defense's ineffective strategy left Trump's team floundering, according to lawyers and former prosecutors who spoke to the BBC. We have Anthony reporting on this.
From the outset, the defense faced a significant challenge. Their client was Donald Trump. The single biggest problem that the defense had in this case, said Mitchell Epner, a New York civil litigator, was that Donald Trump was their client. To secure a conviction, the jury needed to be convinced that Trump falsified business records with the intent to conceal or commit a secondary crime. The Manhattan District Attorney's Office argued that Trump approved his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, paying $130,000 to adult film star Stormy Daniels to keep quiet about an alleged affair, thereby avoiding damage to his 2016 campaign. Trump then approved a scheme to disguise the reimbursement to Cohen as legal expenses, thereby violating election laws. Prosecutors presented 20 witnesses and numerous critical documents, including checks signed by Trump. Trump pleaded not guilty to the 34 counts of falsifying business records. Yet, the defense struggled to provide a coherent counter-narrative. John Moskow, a former prosecutor with the Manhattan DA's office, pointed out that the defense failed to offer a story the jury could accept. While the defense did not need to completely disprove the prosecution's case, providing a plausible explanation for Trump's reimbursement to Cohen would have been beneficial. During closing arguments, Trump's attorney, Todd Blanche, suggested that the payments to Cohen were for legitimate legal work. The defense also claimed Trump paid Daniels to protect his family rather than to influence the election, but this argument was not fully developed. Mitchell Epner noted that the defense seemed to lack a clear strategy. They never picked a lane, and because Donald Trump closed off every lane that could have reasonably been picked, they tried to throw dust in the air and make the jurors confused. Despite the prosecution's strong documentation of falsified business records, the evidence that Trump intended to commit or conceal a secondary crime was weak. Randall Eliason, a professor at George Washington University Law School, suggested a more effective defense would have been to concede the facts but question the evidence of Trump's intent. During cross-examination, Trump's lawyer Susan Nichols tried to discredit Stormy Daniels by portraying her as a liar seeking money and fame. Anna Kominsky, a professor at New York Law School, remarked that this strategy, likely influenced by Trump, wasn't necessary for the defense to succeed. The defense's best opportunity lay in discrediting Michael Cohen, the star witness. Despite Cohen's past guilty pleas and public attacks on Trump, the defense stumbled. Todd Blanche's confrontational question to Cohen about a TikTok insult led to an admonishment from Justice Juan Merchan, highlighting the defense's missteps. The defense called only one significant witness, Robert Costello, to challenge Cohen's claims, but his testimony was undermined by his own emails. In a dramatic moment, Justice Merchan cleared the courtroom to reprimand Costello for his conduct on the stand. In summary, Trump's defense struggled to counter the prosecution's case, failing to present a compelling narrative or effectively challenge key witnesses. As the political ramifications of this historic conviction unfold, its impact on the upcoming election remains to be seen. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Donald Trump's body language was notably rigid when the guilty verdicts were announced, according to the BBC's Kayla Epstein, who described it as the stillest she had ever seen him. We have Jensen reporting on this.
She likened the atmosphere to the air turning to stone. As Trump exited the courtroom, he reached out and grasped his son Eric's upper arm or chest in what appeared to be a fatherly gesture. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
34 charges, one frequently exasperated judge, and a parade of witnesses. After 2 days of deliberations, 12 New Yorkers found Donald Trump guilty of all charges in his hush money case. This verdict is unprecedented, making Trump the first former U.S. president with a criminal conviction and the first major party candidate to run for the White House as a felon. We have Alana reporting on this.
The U.S. Constitution sets minimal eligibility requirements for presidential candidates. They must be at least 35 years old, a natural-born U.S. citizen, and have lived in the U.S. for at least 14 years. There are no rules bearing candidates with criminal records. However, this guilty verdict could influence November's presidential election. A Bloomberg and Morning Consult poll earlier this year found that 53% of voters in key swing states would refuse to vote for Trump if he were convicted. A Quinnipiac University poll this month showed 6% of Trump voters would be less likely to vote for him, which could be significant in a tight race. Trump has been free on bail throughout the trial, and this did not change after the verdict. He was released on his own recognizance and will return to court on July 11 for a sentencing hearing with Justice Juan Merchan. The sentence could involve a fine, probation, supervision, or potentially prison time. Given Trump's age, his lack of previous convictions, and the nonviolent nature of the charges, the judge has several factors to consider. Trump has called the ruling a disgrace and will almost certainly appeal the guilty verdict, a process that could take months or longer. His legal team would face the appellate division in Manhattan and possibly the Court of Appeals. This means that even after sentencing, it is highly unlikely that Trump will be taken into custody immediately, as he is expected to remain free on bail during the appeals process. One potential ground for appeal could be the testimony of adult film star Stormy Daniels. Anna Kominsky, a professor at New York Law School, noted that the level of detail provided by Daniels might be seen as prejudicial, despite adding to her credibility. Trump's defense team twice called for a mistrial during her testimony, but these motions were denied. Another ground for appeal could be the novel legal strategy employed by the district attorney. Trump faced more serious felony charges because of an alleged second crime related to influencing the 2016 election, but prosecutors did not specify to the jury which federal or state election laws were broken. Legal experts question whether the Manhattan DA had the jurisdiction to invoke an uncharged federal crime, which could form a basis for appeal. It is highly unlikely. Each of the 34 charges Trump faced are Class E felonies in New York, the lowest tier in the state, each carrying a maximum sentence of 4 years. Justice Merchan could choose a lesser punishment due to Trump's age, his lack of previous convictions, and the nonviolent nature of the crime. Additionally, practical considerations such as the need for Secret Service protection make incarcerating a former president complex and costly. Trump will likely be able to vote this autumn. Under Florida law, where Trump is a resident, a person with a felony conviction from another state is ineligible to vote only if the conviction would make the person ineligible to vote in the state where they were convicted. In New York, felons can vote as long as they are not currently incarcerated. Therefore, unless Trump is in prison on November 5, he should be eligible to vote. No, presidents can issue pardons for federal offenses, but the hush money case in New York is a state matter, beyond the reach of presidential pardon powers. The same applies to Trump's case in Georgia, where he is accused of conspiring to overturn his 2020 election defeat. Pardon powers are unclear for Trump's 2 federal cases, one involving alleged mishandling of classified documents, and the other concerning conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election. While these cases are unlikely to conclude before the November election, constitutional scholars disagree on whether a president can pardon himself. If Trump were to be re-elected, he might be the first to test this uncharted legal territory. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
U.S. President Joe Biden has authorized Ukraine to use American-supplied weapons to strike targets in Russia, but only in the Kharkiv region, according to U.S. officials. One official told BBC News that the directive ensures Ukraine can use U.S. weapons for counterfire purposes, allowing them to retaliate against Russian forces attacking or preparing to attack. We have Jordan reporting on this.
In recent weeks, Russian forces have made gains in the Kharkiv region, near the border with Russia. Ukrainian officials reported on Friday that Russian shelling of a residential building in a Kharkiv suburb resulted in 3 deaths and 16 injuries. The U.S. official emphasized that the policy prohibiting the use of Army Tactical Missile System, ATACMS, or long-range strikes inside Russia remains unchanged. When asked by CBS, the BBC's U.S. partner, if the new policy included attacking Russian aircraft, an official stated that Ukraine had never been told they couldn't shoot down a Russian airplane over Russian soil if it was attacking them. The White House and State Department did not immediately comment on the matter. Meanwhile, the UK indicated a willingness to ease restrictions on how Ukraine can use Western-supplied weapons. Despite fears that this could escalate the conflict, some European leaders have called for these restrictions to be relaxed. However, Washington, which provides the majority of Ukraine's weaponry, had been hesitant to do so due to escalation concerns. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken hinted at this policy shift during a visit to Moldova on Wednesday, stating, "At every step along the way, we've adapted and adjusted as necessary. And so that's exactly what we'll do going forward." Recently, Russian forces have capitalized on a window of opportunity to advance into Ukrainian territory in Kharkiv, while Kyiv awaits further Western weapon supplies. Last week, a Russian attack on a Kharkiv supermarket with glide bombs killed at least 12 people and injured dozens more. Early on Friday, Kharkiv Regional Governor Oleh Syniehubov reported on Telegram that Russian shelling struck a 5-story apartment block in the Novobavarsky district of Kharkiv, causing a fire and partially destroying the building. The attack resulted in 3 fatalities and 16 injuries, including a 12-year-old boy and girl who were hospitalized. Ukrainian officials accuse Russian forces of targeting exclusively civilian infrastructure and employing a double strike tactic, hitting the site again after paramedics and rescue workers arrived. Back to you, John.
Thanks for that update.
France is positioning itself as the next major player in the field of artificial intelligence. The recent Viva Technology Conference in Paris highlighted how far the country has advanced as an AI leader. We have Ava reporting on this.
A significant focus at the conference was the French AI firm H, previously known as Holistic, which successfully raised $220 million in a seed funding round. Notable investors included U.S. tech giant Amazon and former Google CEO Eric Schmidt. One noticeable trend among French AI firms receiving substantial investments is the addition of U.S. tech giants to their list of shareholders. Earlier this month, France saw a surge of new private investments, spearheaded by Microsoft's commitment of €4 billion, $4.4 billion, marking its largest investment in France to date. At VivaTech, AI was a dominant theme. Visitors saw AI Avenue, an area aligned with U.S. tech companies such as Salesforce and AWS. Generative AI was prominently featured, even by companies not traditionally associated with technology. For instance, French beauty giant L'Oréal showcased an AI-powered beauty assistant called Beauty Genius at a prominent booth in the venue. VivaTech's success has become symbolically important for France in its efforts to establish itself as a leading tech and AI hub, aiming to compete with the U.S. and China. Bruno Le Maire, France's finance minister, asserted to CNBC's Arjen Karpel that France is the leader on artificial intelligence in Europe. While acknowledging the support from U.S. tech giants, Le Maire emphasized that France aims to develop its own AI technologies and nurture its own scientists. France's strong AI research and development ecosystem includes notable facilities like the Facebook AI Research Center from Meta and Google's AI Research Hub in Paris, along with prestigious universities. This robust foundation is helping France push towards becoming a formidable force in the global AI landscape. Back to you, Bella.
Thanks for that update.
Thanks for tuning in to World in 15 for your daily dose of news and updates. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on breaking stories and insightful analysis.